Well, g'day. Great to have you here watching, and it is great to have Ian Green here. We love to bring in some great practitioners and real experts in their field to come and just share a little bit of their story. And so, Ian, I want to talk with you about the whole concept of longevity in ministry. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit of your story, how long you've been in ministry, and then maybe some of the challenges that you faced in that.
Sure. So I am coming into 40 years of being in full-time Christian service.
Wow.
I know it's difficult.
You must have started at 5.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult for those watching to believe that. You know, I actually dye my hair grey to look a bit older.
Give you more credibility.
Give me more credibility.
I like it.
So I guess, radically saved, went to Bible college, ended up serving in a church in southwest Birmingham, place called Amelcourt Stourbridge. And to be really honest, that I never felt competent, capable, or worthy enough to do that. So, although I felt compelled to go into the ministry, at that time of my life, I assumed that I was just going to do it for a couple of years, and then I'd get a proper job. Because all the pastors that I knew, they were old, bald, and fat. So I'm thinking, man, I got time on my side, you know. I'm 20 years of age, like I got time on my side, you know. So that was my mindset. So I was actually shocked that 1 year went by, 2 years went by, 3 years went by, 4 years went by. Yeah, I was shocked that I just kept on going, you know. I guess some of the early things that was quite challenging. Some of that route is probably, you deal with most of your life, that level of insecurity, incapability, not equipped enough, not good enough, etc. That's a battle that you face at different phases and different stages. The other big battle for me was the whole area of faith. Not faith in Christ, but particularly faith for provision to do what you felt God was calling you to do. So when I went to Bible college, I didn't have any resources, you know, and so my parents were pagans, and they definitively said, you go to that Bible college, and we are certainly not going to send you any money.
Wow. And
they were true to their word. And so I'd worked for about a year before I went, and about 6 weeks before I was due to go, I felt the Lord say, give the money away. And I said, come now, let's reason together. That is madness. So I gave the money away because I got no money. And the system was then, the college that I went to, the day that you arrived, you had to turn up with your first term's fees, the first 3 months fees, the day you'd arrived. You know, so I'm thinking, this is totally weird. And of course, the church really doesn't have a brain most of the time. And so they do a farewell service for me and they give me a Bible. I'm thinking, I don't need a Bible. I need cash. I need cash. And so I'm thinking, like, even the laws of supply and demand, I probably can't even sell it for what it's worth because there can be so many Bibles at that Bible college, you know. Anyway, so I remember thinking, I don't know how this is going to work. And I'm walking towards the car and I'm going to drive part way to the college that night and drive on the next day. And I get to the car, and as I open the door, someone comes running across the car park and gives me a big, fat, brown envelope. I felt it, and I could feel it was full of money. I ran back into the church. I had to go to the bathroom. I was almost peeing myself, and so ripped open the envelope, and of course, in the envelope was my first term's fees. And so for me, that was a fairly monumental life-building moment, because much of my ministry life, I've actually been called to do things where there's no obvious sense of particularly financial resource and many times people resource to do what we're doing. I didn't understand at that point the journey that I was being taken on. No one talked to me about that, but on reflection, I began to understand that was it. The second big thing was feeling incapable, incompetent. I mean, I had incredibly bad stammer and stutter, so I think, now the heck can I be a preacher? We can have some very long sermons. And so, so I'm like, how's that gonna work, you know? But again, fitted into that was in my weakness, I become strong in his strength, you know. And so, again, I didn't understand how foundational that was at 18 years of age, you know, but I saw those two rivers have followed me all the way through my life. I've needed to exercise faith to go beyond where I am. And number two, I needed to realize it's not my intelligence, it's not my ability, it's not my communication, it's actually Jesus, and what he does through you is the critical factor.
How would you engage? I'm thinking particularly that second challenge of feeling inadequate and stepping out in faith, and just doing that. How do you combat that?
So I think, you know, for me, there's been a felt need to be equipped.
Yeah.
Always been a felt need. So although I have very few academic qualifications, I've been a life learner. So yeah, I'm constantly learning. Okay. So you know, one of my major forms of learning is reading. I love reading, so I'd read at least 20 books a year. I would listen to podcasts. This time of life, probably not always, the Talking Head conference is not always helpful for me. I'd rather dialogue, discussion, whatever. I'll go for some inspiration, but I know in terms of building me, then I need a different kind of input, you know. So, so when you have that appetite of, I don't know how to do this, I better find out, then you start on a journey. So you go, okay, I'm ill-equipped, I'm not prepared. So, but we can fix that, can't we? We can fix that. And so there are skills that you can develop and learn. In the end, that inward feeling of, I can't do this, that has to be redemptively put on Christ. But with Christ, I can do all things. So I would say there's the natural and the spiritual in terms of, I do what I can do in terms of self-equipping, growing, find a mentor, find other people further down the track to help me. What material is out there? Is it a book I can read? Is it a seminar I can go to? Whatever. And I'll do that, and I'll do that. But that internal thing is, but you've called me, so I reckon we can do it even if I can't do it that well. Let's give it a go.
Great. That's fantastic. Has there been anything that you have put into place that has helped you last the distance?
I would say there's a number of things in a number of different areas. So, so I'm committed to growing. So some years ago, in the organization that I led, we established what we call life leadership groups. They weren't ministry leadership groups, they were life leadership groups. And we took Luke 2 and verse 52, where Jesus grew socially, where he grew intellectually, where he grew spiritually, and where he grew physically. And we divided our life into those 4 component parts, and we had to table goals, what we were going to do in the next 2 months in those 4 areas. Okay. So whether it was, you know, whether it was exercise, whether it was diet, whether it was reading or learning, whether it was a spiritual discipline or whatever. So we had to table them, and then we became accountable for that. Every 2 weeks we'd meet for 1 hour. It wasn't a prayer session, it wasn't a counseling session. Just made, how's that going? How's that exercise going? Oh my gosh, I wish you hadn't asked. So that was one component part. I reckon that saved me from burnout.
Wow.
Because I'm very passionate, I'm very committed, and so people around me would say, yeah, you are a workaholic. That forced the issue on some of those areas because for example, in my relational goal, I said, okay, I'm going to date my wife twice a month, and I'm going to date my children once a month each. So that forces interaction.
Right, yeah.
Okay. In our marriage, for the first maybe 15 years of our marriage, we took 2 weekends away each year just to reflect. So how are we doing? Like, how are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, how's our parenting doing? How's our budgeting doing? And so it was just, okay, turn the noise down, let's just reflect.
Wow.
Do we want to change? Do we want to, is there anything we need to change here? As the kids got a little older, we engaged them in the process, so we would have what we'd call family powwows. So I've traveled internationally for most of my work life, 12 to 14 days a month, so we'd pour it out there with the kids. So his dad traveling too much, is he away too often? And so it came on the table. So the kids, at 9, 10,
wow,
could actually speak into that, So try to engage the family in decisions that was actually going to was impacting my ministry, but was actually impacting their lives. And so we had the value that family was important. So how does that work for us then, So there was that. I took a sabbatical.
Okay.
And I highly recommend sabbaticals. Don't do those silly sabbaticals for 3 months. They're absolutely hopeless. They're just like a holiday, that is. Have a serious sabbatical. I took a sabbatical for 7 months. I mean, I wanted 12 months, but the board I had were quite mean. They only gave me 7 months. That was quite transformative for me in terms of, I think that set me up for the next 10 years of my ministry.
Wow, great.
So I say care for your soul. One thing I would say where I think I had great neglect, and really this only caught up on me probably 3 or 4 years ago, I neglected my emotional world. People in ministry my age, you didn't everything was a spiritual issue. Just pray, break through, brother, it'll be fine. Just speak in tongues, it'll all be good, Where I had an uncared for emotional well that finally gave up on me, where almost 4 years ago the psychologist says I hadn't burned out, but if I didn't change, I was absolutely on that road. Wow. And gave me some advice on what to do. Yeah. And that was quite fantastic.
Wow. Great.
I can unpack that more if you want.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, so looking after your emotional world, what are some of the things that on a practical level, what does that look like?
So it looks like differently for different people. So you've got to say to yourself, what refreshes you emotionally? So, we know that exercise will refresh us physically. We know that. As much as we may not like it or hate it, but regular exercise keeps you fresh, clears your mind. We understand that. But what do we do for our soul or for our emotional world? It's different. So for me, I love live theatre. I love live music. Yeah. So, living the life that we do, we've not had a salary for 27 years, so sometimes that's not always possible, okay? But there's other ways around that. There's other ways around that. You can go to local theatre. You don't always have to go to the West End in London, So for me, music, I like music. So I'm not musical, but I love music. And there's certain kinds of music that refreshes my soul, okay? So the arts, although I'm not arty, but the arts do something for me. So you've got to find what is it that does something for you. One of the things that I discovered as my children were growing up, particularly my son, that we started going to football matches on a regular basis when I was home. Like, I didn't realize singing and shouting and carry on in that atmosphere, how invigorating that was. Like, that was like good for me. I can be allowed for an hour and a half. It's great, And so, so you actually have to find out what the thing is that's going to bring that level of refreshment to you. So there are some of the things that have brought refreshment to me. Engaging. I mean, one of the things I went through being a workaholic was I was in the room with the family, but I wasn't present.
Yeah, sure.
So the psychologist says, Ian, that's a no-no. You've got to engage because you're going to find renewal and refreshment as you hear the journey and the story of your children and your wife and what's going on. That's not going to be a drain to you. That's going to bring joy to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, all media, all social media, you leave it in the office. When you come into the lounge, you're not wherever. So yeah, there's some things that help.
That's fantastic. Of course, the question that comes to mind, it's more a personal thing. Who do you go for in the football?
Man United.
Oh, Man United.
I've only supported them since 1967.
Oh,
so I'm new at it.
Yeah,
I'm new at it.
That's it.
So I remember the 20 dark years when Liverpool won everything. So I enjoyed the last 20 years when they just about won everything.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm a Liverpool supporter, so I would prefer to, go back.
You can be healed of that.
I'm sure. All right. So staying in ministry over the long haul obviously requires a certain level of competence, some skills. What are some of the skills that help you as a leader remain in ministry for the long haul?
I think a lot is to do with mindsets and refreshing your mind. So a book that really helped me, The Making of a Leader by Robert Clinton, quite an outstanding book, quite difficult to read, but highly recommended. Talks about the 6 phases that you go to in leadership. One is, he calls it foundational. You were called, you had nothing to do with it, you just obeyed. You found yourself, okay, I'm here, I'm doing something. Then you had some kind of experience, maybe. Like for me, my primary experience came via Bible college and then into a staff position. For lots of other people, they may have led an urban life group, they may have been a part of the follow-up team, they may have been on the hospitality, wherever. Mm-hmm. And so you begin to move through that, and then you have some life experience. Not going to build a whole theory on this, but something happens, around about 30, something happens to you. We know from a physiological viewpoint that's absolutely true. Where there's natural things that happen. You may get married, you may have a family, you may set up responsibilities, pay a mortgage, whatever. Yeah. So that does something to you in terms of levels of maturity and responsibility. So that becomes an added value to you in the ministry. And then the next stage is ministry experience. So there comes a point, and it's hard to put timelines on this, for me, probably in my middle 30s, like I began to understand how things worked. Like I could write sermons. I knew where to get resources from. I knew how to motivate people. I knew how to build a team. I knew lots of things. In fact, by the time I'm coming to my late 30s, I'm getting quite anxious because I'm thinking, gosh, I can do all of this without Jesus, and most people wouldn't even know.
Wow.
So that was a scary aha moment for me. And so it's at that point I decided to have a sabbatical. I wasn't burnt out, worn out, wasn't crashing, but I planned 18 months ahead, and I'm going to take this 7-month break. And so out of that, his 5th stage of development is what he would call convergence, when you've done a lot of things in your ministry up until that point, but you see repeated patterns of what becomes fruitful for you.
Sure.
So in convergence, you probably just focus on 2 or 3 of your major gifts. So if I do it in a pastoral setting, so if the senior leader, senior pastor he's got strong leadership, strong teaching, then probably from after convergence, he's going to his teaching gift will allow him to write books, material, leadership material, and his leadership will help him to build the church, maybe help to build other organizations parallel to the church, maybe sit on boards of other organizations, and convergence starts to come forward. As it was for me, as I began to review my life, there was one thing that kept on coming up is that I'm a pioneer.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm shocked, you know, but like I go to this little church in the West Midlands, 30, 40 people. I start a schools ministry. We're in 10 schools in a year. So I go, well, I ain't got the capacity for that. So I need to build a team. So I build a team of other ministers in the town. So there we are. On any 1 week, we're in 27 schools. And so I go, okay, so that's pioneering. I'm only there a year. And I start 5 children's clubs in different parts of the city. Because I see, okay, this is a way to get into the family, whatever. So this pioneer. And then I end up working for Youth Alive, and they'd had nobody for 9 years, so it was utterly impossible to fail. And so and so I take that on, and you know, we start developing conferences, and 500-600 youth leaders start tuning up to these 1 week long conferences for training and equipping. We start a short-term missions program. We send in 200-300 kids on mission every year. We start a 1-year discipleship program, 30-40 kids sign up for a year, I guess like an internship year out gap type program. We launched that in the US, in Australia, wherever. So that pioneer thing, we had a great opportunity into our high school system. We didn't have enough youth passes to take it, so we said, okay, how are we going to fix this? So we trained 2,500 business people how to do a morning assembly on your way to work.
Wow.
Because that was the only way we could capitalize on the opportunity. Okay, so pioneering. So then I go into Europe, I see incredible opportunity there. God asked me, would I do something? So then I pioneer a mission organization into Europe. Then I start the Proton Foundation. And so, yeah, I know that I'll probably never stop pioneering. Yeah. So I'm normally a little ahead of the game, and then people are kind of a bit miffed off with me, and then 3 or 4 years later they go, oh man, that's a good idea. It's okay, yeah, beautiful. So as I read that book, I realized there's the pioneer in me, okay? There's a pioneer in me, there's leadership in me. I somehow take command of situations, I somehow inspire people to want to engage and be involved. So I think in my convergence years, I think I'm there to bring inspiration, leadership, and create new models. So yeah, that's me. So I tried pastoring, and I just don't like people. And it's all right until they find out. It's all right till they find out, because they have some expectations the pastor should like that. Anyway, so I know that's kind of not me, all right, but I know where I am. So in Convergence, you concentrate on the 2 or 3 things that have consistent fruit that have been there for the last 20 or 25 years. And then his final phase, which is really interesting, which he talks about the afterglow. So no business card, no website, no ministry profile. You're at the lake fishing. Through a network of relationships through your life, people start coming to you. You're not going to them, they come into you. They download for 2 hours. You upload for 30 minutes. Yep. You have no responsibility but massive influence, and there you become the most productive in your ministry life. Yeah. So when you understand the plan or the roadmap, then you understand there are very few crises in the ministry. They are just things to get our attention, adjust our thinking, alter our character, embrace pain, so that we can become the people that God wants us to become. So I would say that would be one of the things. Understand the roadmap, understanding thinking and acting holistically about your whole life, and then find ways to have fun.
Yeah. But something tells me that you don't have to try very hard for that. Great. That's fantastic. Well, look, you talked about one of the convergence. One of the things that you seem to be good at is the whole inspiration thing. I know that I am inspired just sitting here listening. So really appreciate your time, and really looking forward to what you're going to be pioneering again in your 90s. That'll be outstanding. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.